Coming up on this week's show.
I get constantly threatened by my teenagers that they will block and report me on Instagram. I was feeling unhinged at the time. That was the truth of it. Wham bam, I'm making them stand up and shout vulva at the top of their lungs, which happened. I was like, blimey, if I'd had him first, I wouldn't have had any more. And feeling like, wow, that is what it is to be a woman. We shall never talk again after this.
Welcome back to the show. If this is your first time, then it's just welcome to the show. This is the place where we force our guests to choose their top 5 most significant tracks from their lives and then tell us the stories behind them. Our guest today is an author, a video creator, a speaker, a kitchen dancer, a wife and mum to 2 teens, and definitely not Stacey Dooley. If you see her website, you'll understand why I said that. She is a spokesperson for women's health, for mental health, for raising the next generation, and generally, being an adult. Of her debut book, My Menopause, My Journal, My Rules, Davina McCall. Yes, Davina McCall said, what a fab book for the next menopausal generation. I came across her not while researching the menopause on Instagram, but a social post popped up in my feed, and one that made me laugh out loud, which doesn't happen very often on Instagram. So I immediately followed ginge Unhinged, and I'm very chuffed that she's agreed to come on the show. To give you a flavour of what's coming up on the show, here's a clip of her talking about her daughter who's just about to start university.
And talking of the food shop, she goes, Mum, don't worry, there's a Waitrose nearby. A fucking Waitrose? I'm 42 and I still can't afford a corn-fed chicken that's been massaged by the Holy Spirit. And the only time that I've set foot in a fucking Waitrose is to steal a free coffee and pretend I belong.
Victoria Hardy, ginge Unhinged, welcome to the show.
Oh, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
I've seen that clip a few times and it still makes me laugh every time. That might be the first clip I ever saw of yours, which generally made me laugh out loud. So it's great. My first question has got to be, if no one's ever seen you, then it's not just your daughter, it's your son and also your husband who get it, right? Do they mind?
Do they mind? That is a great question. Yes, they do mind. Is the honest answer. I get constantly threatened by my teenagers that they will block and report me on Instagram, as teenagers do. And my husband says, "Did you mean that?" And I'm like, "Oh, of course not." Secretly, yes. No, they obviously know what I do, and when they're in the thick of often what I'm sharing about on my rants, I will say to them, you are giving me so much content right now. And often that is a deterrent to, them to continue what they're either saying.
Oh, that's absolute genius for controlling your kids. Yeah. Oh, if only I thought of
my discipline. That is how I'm disciplining my
it's
teenagers.
Brilliant.
It's not grounding. Just you're giving me so much content. But yeah, my daughter she's nearly 20 now, so she gets it. My son is 16, so I do have to be a little bit careful about what I say, and filter if I can have a filter.
So I have 2 daughters who are 17 and 21. And I literally can't do anything on social media without their approval. Like I can't post a photo, can't say anything, can't comment on anyone. It's no.
Oh yeah, they're holding you to a bar. No.
Really are. So I don't know how you get away with it. You're very brave.
Well, sometimes they get free stuff. That's I'm like, if you still want to get the free stuff, then you gotta let mum do her thing. I do sometimes record stuff, and then before I press play I think, do I need to say that, or I'll ask their permission and say, look, this is what I'm going to say, but most of the time I wing it and just hope that they either don't see it, or it's more their friends, because they go, oh, my friends,
yeah,
well, they should be following me.
Just take me back to where it all started. Like, why did you decide to do this? Were you those kids at school who was always funny?
I think I've always had like a comedic way, but probably didn't get called funny. I was more the joker in class. I was a little bit cheeky. Growing up with 3 brothers, definitely you have to like tap into your funny bone for sure. And being the youngest, so there is humour in my house.
That's sort of survival.
Survival humour. And I think that has probably actually been my resilience throughout my life. In everything that I've experienced and gone through, I've always tackled it. Once we're sort of out of the real depths of the thick of the rubbish, I've then tackled it with humor and getting through. So, but I think as you get older and you sort of, I suppose, grow into yourself a bit more, you realize, oh, okay, this is resonating with people. Maybe I am funny. But yeah, not calling myself a full blown comedian yet.
Is that your aim? Well, like, as in, when did you start? When did you go Instagram, ginge unhinged? That's my personality, and my sort of theme is gonna be around, kind of normal family life and the funny side of it. Where did that come as a kind of an epiphany at one point?
Well, it really didn't. My Instagram grew over the years. So it actually started from quite a dark place. It started from my therapist saying to me, I think you should blog. And this was like back in 2019, just the turn of 2020.
Blog or journal, as in
So,
blog
well,
public?
I started journaling, and he obviously realised I was quite creative, and I enjoyed writing, and I had this sort of creative element to my life and the job that I was doing at the time. And he said, I think you should blog kind of what and I think that would be a great outlet for you. And my husband was like, really? I was in the middle of a mental breakdown at that point, so it was like, oh, do I? And but I decided to turn to Instagram instead because I think it felt easier, and I created Ginge Unhinged, obviously Ginge, and I was feeling unhinged at the time. That was the truth of it. And I think I started just talking about my mental health experience and what I was feeling. Some of it was funny, some of it was heartfelt, some of it was really raw and real. And then as I learned more about my mental health and how it was connected to menopause, and for me, surgical menopause, going through it a lot younger, this was sort of in my 30s, I started to share that experience, but again, always with that humorous side. So I built this sort of community of people that wanted to share that experience about real life, about mental health, about women's health, but not do it with the oh so serious tone, because we would, still kind of can find the humor in it. And then more recently, I would say, sort of more in the last year or so, I think I've kind of realized that there is more to my life than just talking about menopause. And of course, the teenagers give me so much content. And there's other stuff, right, that you can talk about. So I've kind of opened up my content that way. And since I've done that, it's kind of seems to be really doing well.
And humour, I always think, like, when you're talking about serious subjects, especially in the sort of where the world is now, humour really eases the sort of burden of dealing with it a little bit. Do you know what I mean? Like, there's people that I follow on, politically on Instagram, and the only person I really enjoy is a guy called Cody Darla, who is really funny, but has a really intelligent breakdown of what is going on in the world, and you kind of go, oh, I can digest this.
Yeah.
But if it was just a straight, like racist politics type thing, it's so heavy, and I think it's a really sort of clever way of allowing people to digest something that is quite difficult.
I really think so. And I think with the world as it stands, everything feels so heavy. And we have to try and find the glimmers and find that humour within ourselves. And if we can, we're all looking for connection and relatability. And I think if we can get that, what I've always said, whether I'm talking about something really serious like, mental health, parts of menopause that can feel, really heavy and really serious, or I'm talking about how I'm raising teenagers and how we tackle that whole kind of generational change that we're dealing with as parents. I think by doing it with some humor, you get that relatability and people kind of relax, and they're more likely then to kind of learn and then take action on what they're
Yeah.
learning. And I really really believe that. And whether I'm standing in a corporate setting and I've gone in to talk about menopause, and wham bam, I'm making them stand up and shout vulva at the top of their lungs, which happens.
I so want to see a video of that.
Which is great, and they've definitely not expected that. That kind of like, the breath is taken in the room, and they go, oh, okay, this is just normalizing stuff that we're all facing, whether we're male, female, whatever. And then they're more likely to go, oh, I remember that session, and I remember what I learned there, and then I can go and take some action on whether it's my own health or supporting somebody going through it. So yeah, I believe that humor is kind of, the crux of joy, really.
Yeah, and just out of interest, this is a real sidetrack, but when you go do the corporate events, are you highlighting the difficulties that women in the corporate world have to go through, not just if they're in the going through the menopause, but every month through their menstrual cycle?
Yeah.
Okay, and does it hit?
It does, yeah. I think once you've opened up the conversation that these type of issues happen at any age. So, whether that's menopause happens at, from teenage years right through to women who are still in the workplace in their 60s and now 70s, and beyond, they're still experiencing symptoms. Or, how women are dealing with menstrual cycles or menstrual health issues, and also how they perform differently at different times in the month.
Yeah.
But I think once you open that up to everybody in the room and make it inclusive, which is something that I'm really, passionate about doing, and not just singling off people of a certain age or of a certain sex, then you can bring everyone into that conversation, and the penny drops and goes, okay, this affects everybody, but always with a positive stance of this is, how it can affect us in the business and how that moves the business forward, and everyone feels supported at the same time.
Yeah, yeah, it's a very clever way of going about trying to change the corporate world. Well done.
And getting them to stop over.
Yeah, which I've never heard before, which is amazing. I just got a quick question. At what age was the most difficult with your children? As in where they were the most difficult? Can I ask that? I can tell you about mine.
It's as hard as choosing a Beatles song. What age was the most difficult? Different for both of them, because I've got a girl and a boy. I think with my son, it was definitely the earlier years, just because of the way his character was. I was somebody that needed to get to school, and he was kind of like, and after having my daughter, who was so good, I was like, blimey, if I'd had him first, I wouldn't have had any more. And he knows that. But then he kind of settled. My daughter was definitely around between the age of 12 and 14, which I think a lot of parents would say.
Yeah, I totally agree with that.
Yeah, and for us, we had the mix of, puberty, undiagnosed autism, and also COVID happening, and all of that side of things. So that was incredibly a tough period. But raising teenagers, I think, is really difficult in this day and age, which I can't believe I'm saying, because now I sound like my mum. This day and age. But and it's not raising my teenagers. Like, I love them, and actually I love this stage of life, but actually raising them in this world, and particularly my son, in the expectations of a young man growing up in 2026 and everything he's facing, got to think of.
Have you, again, sidetrack, I might edit some of this out, sorry, but have you watched the Manosphere show with Liver? What did you think?
What do I think? Do I think it's shocking? No, because I think I'm privy up into those conversations that these things are happening.
Really?
And I'm also aware, because I have a boy in the house, so I know how he is influenced, things that come out of his mouth that we challenge and we discuss and we talk about, and we say, well, where did you get that idealism from, or who's talking about that at school? And we have those open conversations all the time in the house, which is really healthy. So I was aware of that type of world. What do I think of it? I think that it is a facade around a money-making business. That's what I think.
It's a glorified what we used to call a pyramid scheme.
Exactly that. And I think it's very clever con artists, to call them that, who are tackling vulnerability in a new way, in a shocking way that they know will get all of the media attention that they need.
Yeah.
My worry is that it's an extremely dangerous way of doing that. And I think there's an element for me as a parent, and me and my husband have talked about this, that this type of thing on threat to our youngsters and to young men, particularly in this instant, come along in different ways throughout time. You know, it used to be rock and roll, right? But now it's
Yeah.
the atmosphere. And I think the conversations have to be had and challenged and learned together in the house.
Yes.
I think we can't blame. I think we have to go, right, this is happening. How do
For
we
sure.
protect what's going on in our world?
Yeah. And I think it's, well, it's not every household, but it's almost the importance now of having an open, like you do, conversations with your kids, because there's so much going on, online that you have I had very little clue about the people in the manosphere. And my daughter, I was watching with my 21-year-old, and she's sitting there going, like rolling her eyes, going, "I hate men. I hate men." I'm going, "I'm a man. It's not all men. Just like, she's going, I know, but these men are just like
It's
evil."
those men, and that's
Yeah.
and the trouble is those men are taking that narrative that women hate men and using it as a tool to make money. And
Yeah.
actually, if you talk to if you talk to a lot of women, we don't hate men. Feminists don't hate men. We just want equality and equity, and we
Yeah.
want to continue to learn off each other.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's all about the open conversations. We can't possibly know everything that's going on in our teenagers' worlds or on their phones unless you are on them 24/7. And I think we have to be really honest that we're not. We're distracted as parents in our own worlds online.
Yeah. Yeah.
But it's about the conversations that you have around the kitchen table, challenging them, letting them challenge you and your views as well. And just
Yeah.
learning like that, yeah.
Sorry for the interruption. If you have a top track with a great story, then you could be featured on the show. Just fill out the form in our bio and we may be in touch. Also, if you're enjoying the show, like and subscribe. Now let's get back to it.
Victoria, let's get on to your tracks.
Yes.
How easy was it to pick 5?
I did not like it at all, Nigel. It was not a fun experience.
Oh, it's meant to be kind of fun.
It was, until then I thought, well, I haven't chosen Joni Mitchell, and there's Fleetwood Mac in there, and how the hell do I choose out of a whole catalogue of, one certain artist? I think I said to you in an email, this is like choosing the favourite moments of bringing up my children or choosing a favourite child. It's hard, right? Especially when music is so ingrained in your life.
Yes.
As it is in our house. But I did enjoy it eventually, but there's still part of me that's like, have I made
I couldn't believe I left that one out. I know that's
yeah.
But I said to everyone, like, you can come back in a year's time and do another 5 and stuff. So you can sort of make up for it. So let's do your first track, which is "The Gambler" by Bobby Bear. Let me play a clip.
Never count your money. Oh, when you're sitting at the table, there'll be time enough for counting when the deal ends.
Yeah, it's not a great video, is it? Because it's quite old. I think they didn't have a video for it.
Nobody knows Bobby Bear's version.
And also,
Penny.
I'd never really heard of Bobby Bear. So he's been releasing. I did some research. He's been releasing country music since the 1950s, and he released his last album in 2020, "Great American Saturday Night." That's pretty prolific. And he was induced into the Country Music Hall of Fame in 2013. The song was written by a guy called Don Schlitz, who also released it a year after Bobby Bear did. So there was 1976 when Bobby Bear released it, 77 when Don Schlitz released it, and then Kenny Rogers released it in 78. And that was I think that's the one that everyone knows.
Everyone knows Kenny, yeah.
And this is the first country song we've had on the show, Victoria, so thanks. Tell me about...
Just, for a bit of countryness.
Tell me about why you chose this.
Okay, I chose this. This, for me, is like the root of my childhood, this song. So I have such fond memories of just being in the car with my dad, with my brother, my dad introduced me to country music. My mum's music taste is pretty awful. So my dad introduced me to country music really early on. And this song particularly is like the heartbeat of our family. And this particular version is what I remember. So, and it's interesting because we always have a feud in my household because my brothers, my two eldest brothers, they're like, no, Kenny's version. Whereas me and my youngest brother are like, no, Bobby Bear, because it must have been what my dad just had on the track at the time and played over and over. So I just have such fond memories of being in the car, driving wherever we needed to go, and the country tracks would come on. And this was the one that everyone was singing in the car. And now we're all grown up and we've all got our own kids, and there's great grandchildren in the family, and they all know The Gambler.
Wow.
And we live across the world. So I've got family right across from New Zealand to Spain to here. And when we get together, that's the song. That's the song that we are singing.
It's probably a difficult one to answer. Why this song though? Is it lyrically, or you could all sing along to it, or just your dad just played it endlessly? Why this song?
Yeah, I think it's a mix of the lyrics, obviously that country iconic tune, and the fact that it all rings. But I think it's that resemblance to, you got to know what you're doing, know the choices that you make, and knowing when to take the risk, knowing when not to, that kind of element to our family, I suppose, is that my dad has always brought us up in kind of this, we come from quite a small seaside town, but his viewpoint was always go out, see the world, but know when it's right to do so, and know when you need to be back home. And I think it's that kind of element of the lyrics just mixed with the melody, mixed with the sentiment of it, really.
Yeah. I really like lyrics where the comparison of life to not gambling necessarily, but like cards or risk taking and stuff. I think it's because it sort of sums up life a little bit, doesn't it? Which is why it's so clever, I think, when they do that. So
Yeah.
Very good. Let's do your next track, which is "You Ought to Know" by Alanis Morissette. Let's hear a clip. So this, so I really remember this track and really loving it. So this is the lead single taken from, I didn't know this, but her third studio album, which I thought it was a debut, but it wasn't, which was Jagged Little Pill from 1995. It won a Grammy for Best Rock Song. And in the video, the drummer is the late Taylor Hawkins from Foo Fighters.
I didn't actually know that.
Me neither. It's crazy. But and then 2 years later, that's when 2 or 3 years later, he joined the Foo Fighters after that. So yeah. So why this track, Victoria?
Oh, this track. So choosing something, I tried to choose something from like the stages of my life, and choosing something of that coming of age time. There was so many that could have made the list. But I think, and even just from that album, there was, I expect
there were some bangers on it.
I mean, one hand in my pocket, ironic. Like, there's just so many that you hear and you immediately get transported back to that time. But there was something about this song, not only back then when I heard it. So I would have only been 12 when that song came out. So it was definitely that sort of turning into those teenage years, right through to now. I just remember hearing it and feeling like, wow, that is what it is to be a woman. And that raw intensity of her lyrics, of everything being laid out on the table, the language that she used in there, the lyrics that were kind of for the time as well, like, wow, she really said that in a song. I just remember the visceral feeling of hearing it and blaring it out in my bedroom. And I still blare it out in the car now. I think it does something, and it definitely moved me in a way at that age, to think, wow, when we've got kind of other pop artists around at that time that were a little bit more softly, I just felt like, wow, I really connected to it. And I think that was probably the start for me of this love of being disruptive, but in a good way, and going, I'm going to say what I feel, and it's okay to do that. And kind of that strong female, empowerment, I suppose.
I mean, I'm a bit older than you, and I remember this coming out, and the 90s were a lot of kind of bloke culture. It was quite kind of Britpoppy and Oasis and Blur and stuff. And this came out, and you realise that men shouldn't get away with stuff, and actually women are empowered to call you out on it. And I really remember at the time, in the 90s, I was sort of starting to, date. Can we say date? And it was a real... what's the word? Just a kind of realization that actually you have to respect everyone, because this is how people feel if you don't, and this is how it can affect people if you don't. And I think there's less and less of that now, I think, for sure. I think she was a real trailblazer.
She was, yeah.
In terms of just being able to sum it up in a song, which is genius, I think.
Yeah, and I think just to be able to articulate that pain and grief that she felt as well. It wasn't like high level, fluffy surface stuff that we'd seen around that time. This was raw and real, and you could feel her utter pain through the lyrics, through the way that she sang it, through the video, just anything, and you still feel it to this day.
Which is also makes it such a great song. And I think a lot of those songs where they express pain are done in a very sort of melancholy, soft, powerful lyrically, kind of Ray, and I love Ray, so I'm not knocking Ray, but that kind of way. Whereas this is like, no, I'm just fucking angry about this. You really treated me badly. I'm going to fucking tell you about it. And I think that very few people can do that well, like she did. I think it's brilliant.
She's such a legend. And I think it was a turn to give young girls like me at the time, older girls and women experiencing it, permission to go, yes, I am fucking angry, and I'm going to express that. And it's okay for women to be angry.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah. Real trailblazer.
Yeah.
Very good. Love that song. Let's do your next one, which is The End by the Beatles. Here's a clip. Again, not a great video. But so this is...
why did you choose that one?
Let me tell you. So this is taken from their 1969 album Abbey Road. It was the last song recorded collectively by all four Beatles.
Yeah, I did know.
And this is the only drum solo Ringo Starr ever did with the Beatles. And it's only one of two songs by the Beatles that I like. Don't hate me. No, you see, this is going to cause so much good. Don't hang up or anything. Don't hang up. Stay on the show. See, I don't know why, and I've really tried to get behind the Beatles, and I just can't. And I like this song, so thank you for introducing me to this one, because I like this one. And Taxman, and the reason I like Taxman is because the Jam did start and they nicked the bass line, and so I thought, oh no, I like that because it's got the same bass line as the Jam. So so I'm just not a Beatles fan. But tell me about them.
I forgive you. It's all right.
Thank you.
We shall never talk again after this.
So why this song, Victoria?
So first of all, the Beatles, just generally. So let me tell you where my love for them come from.
Okay.
So, I was introduced to the Beatles really through my husband. We, got together quite young, and my music taste before that was, your Alanis Morissette, and we had Britney and Spice Girls and Blur and Oasis and all those things. And I obviously knew who the Beatles were, and I knew their songs, but I didn't really know who they were. I wasn't brought up on their music. My parents never listened to them really. And I remember my kind of husband introducing me to them properly, and he's a huge Beatles fan. So he's
going to really hate me, isn't he?
He plays George Harrison in Beatles tribute bands. So the Beatles for us is it's like the rhythm of our house. So the the kids love it. My son now he plays guitar and piano. He can play Beatles songs till the cows come home. But there's so many great tracks. There's some that I don't like too, but there's so many great tracks. But the reason that I chose this one particularly, and if anyone can listen to the full, the full version of it, for me, it just sums up everything about them. The way that the guitars are riffing with each other, the joy in the melody and the music, the fact that it comes off the back of 2 previous tracks on Abbey Road, and leads into the end. So, if you listen to just that song on its own, you're kind of like, yeah. But if you listen to those last 3 tracks together, how they link,
Okay.
it's genius. And it's probably one of the songs with the least lyrics in for the Beatles, but the lyrics are so poignant, and it's simply about love. And the last words, and especially as it was the last track that they recorded as a 4 together that we know of at the moment, to say those words at the end, it sums up life. And go on.
I feel like I'm going to listen to this in a completely different light now and fall in love with the Beatles at my ripe old age.
So I think for me, the drum solo is phenomenal.
Yes.
In it, and it makes me feel everything when I listen to it. So yeah, it was a really tight call with the Beatles songs, because it was like, it was a really difficult decision to which Beatles song would I choose. But I feel like when I put that on, it's rocking. It's and then that beautiful end.
See, when I listen to it, I think I like it because to me it doesn't sound like a Beatles song, because there's not a lot. It's not a kind of verse, bridge, chorus. It's this kind of strange arrangement. It's got a drum solo in it. It's got a rhythm that I haven't heard them do before, and that's why I think I liked it. But it doesn't sound, in my head, it doesn't sound typically Beatles.
Yeah, I think it's an amalgamation of everything that came before, and then you listen to those last 3 tracks together, and then that final song, the end, and it's like they're throwing everything of all of the years before, which was actually not that many years in their career.
Yeah, no, yeah.
So young when they actually broke up.
Yeah.
But just into those, into that melody, into that just joy and the harmony, at the end, and it's just a beautiful close to that chapter.
Yes. Yeah. So I think you're right with that song. You do have to listen to its entirety. There is, I'm putting together a playlist on YouTube where every guest has their song on there, so it will go on there. So if you want to listen to it, you can listen to it.
Yeah, and listen to it with. I've written down just to make sure I get the order right, but Golden Slumbers, and then Carry That Way, and then the end. So they're the last 3 tracks on
okay.
And if you listen to all of them, they automatically just go into each other. And it's like you're listening to you're taking on this journey,
yes.
And, and in the end, the love you take is equal to the love you make.
There was when I was researching, there was a quote that John Lennon said about that lyric, and I can't remember what he said about it, but he actually said the lyric wrong.
So ran the other way?
Yes.
Yeah. I probably did. I don't know.
It was quite funny. Let's do your next track. This is Kids in America, Kim Wilde. So this is her debut single in 1981 in the UK, and it was released in the US in 1982. It reached number 2 in the UK and made top 40 in the US, which at that point was quite a big feat for a debut single from a British artist. The music was written by her brother. The lyrics were written by her dad, Marty Wilde, who was a big teen idol from the 50s that my mum idolised. Why this one?
So I wasn't around when it got released at all. So it's not sort of a song of my childhood. I suppose I remember hearing it in my youth, but it wasn't I was born in 83. So it was before my time. But for me, this depicts a time and a specific memory in my life where we went on a road trip around America, and we had, a playlist that we'd all added to, and so on and so forth.
Is the we your family, or when you were younger and
No,
you're
so this particularly when with my family, with my kids when they were younger, it was back in 2017. But I had done a road trip with my family when I was 11 around America, and I always when I was on my road trip as a kid, I remember thinking, when I grow up, I want to do this with my kids, because it was just so amazing. We had a camper van and we went. It was so brilliant. So to fulfill that dream and then do that later on with my own kids, and we'd done a sort of shorter one first, and then we did like a 3.5 week.
wow.
And
Whereabouts did you go?
so we covered 3 states. So we flew in. The first one we did was San Francisco, and we did down to LA. It was like a short one, and then we went back and we did LA. Right across to we did Grand Canyon, we did Las Vegas, we did Sequoia, 3 Rivers, and then right up again, and then down Route 1, stopping at different places.
Yeah.
The kids worked on ranches. We did Route 66.
Oh wow.
We took them to Vegas, in which my son at very early age said, I am never going to unsee everything that I've seen in Vegas. I think that was definitely a turning point in his his young
education
eyes. Like, it's character building, kid. So yeah, that was fun. But we always wanted to do it, and I remember there was 3 songs actually that I remember being on Route 66 and us being in the car and singing and just feeling the moment. Like, I am driving on Route 66. I've got my kids in the back. We're on this like 2,500 mile, road trip. We feel so free and, and kind of home, I guess. We felt like we were home in that moment. It was so cool.
Home in terms of what? Because you're all together.
Yeah, I think so. And I think just the home in being on the adventure.
Okay.
It felt like a very easy time. We didn't feel tied to anything. We were on our own agenda. The kids, myself, my husband, and the kids had experienced and seen these amazing things. And it felt like, of course it wasn't, because I had 2 children with me, and it was far from perfection at times. Just to keep it very real. It wasn't. My son was spewing up in the back constantly.
Well, now we're getting to the truth of it.
We were like driving for 6 hours over these mountains, and like getting frightened by black bears and all these things. But and obviously they were little shits at the time. But just in that moment, I remember driving along Route 66 and thinking, this dream that I had to do this with my kids had happened. And there was 3 songs, and Kids in America was one of those songs. And I think if you were to ask any of the family, they would say that's the song that depicts the road trip,
Okay.
the feeling that we had as a family at the time. And the minute that first sound comes on, that
yeah,
and actually, when I was preparing for this, I listened to the 3 songs that I had. I was blaring them from the kitchen because I wanted to make the right decision. And the boy, who's my son, I call him the boy, he walked straight in and he went, oh my God, this makes me think of the road trip. And I was like, that's the one. Yeah. And it's just, it takes us back to that moment. It was such a phenomenal trip to take my kids on. It changed their lives and how they view stuff.
Did it? In what way?
I think taking them out of school for 3.5 weeks and exposing them to that life and travel, the nature that they saw. They got to ride, horses with, up mountains without helmets, with, just bunged on a horse and taken in the middle of bear season. Some would say it's irresponsible parenting, but I say it's character building. Las Vegas, I mean, my God, that opened up conversations.
Yes.
We saw a blue whale.
Oh, wow.
Bay. Yeah, we obviously did a little bit of the Disney thing, to see the redwoods, to travel Route 1, San Francisco, LA, Grand Canyon. I mean, to to be in those moments and be chaotic in some, but then be very still, and one with kind of what life was like when you're on the road was
Yes,
very, very
and being in the present, I think, sort of makes you do that a little bit, doesn't it?
yeah,
Would you do it again with them?
100%.
Would
Yeah.
they?
Yeah, I think so. So
Okay,
the plan is to do another one for my husband's 50th. So we've got a few years
amazing.
to save for that. But to do a different route, and maybe do some areas that we didn't cover. But yeah, my kids would definitely, yeah, they loved it.
Let's do your final track, which is "Ride" by Lana Del Rey.
I hear the birds on the summer breeze. I drive fast. I am alone in midnight.
So every guest that has come on the show so far has introduced me to a track that is then my new favourite track, and this is my new favourite track. And I'm a fan of Lana Del Rey, but I find her quite hard to listen to because she's so emotive and she's so intense,
Yeah.
and it's not a sort of light experience to listen to. So I sort of have to be in the mood. But I absolutely love this song. So this is her from her third EP, Paradise, in 2012. It wasn't a big hit in the US, but it did reach the top 10 in Russia, unbelievably. And it also didn't. The critics didn't love it, and they didn't hate it. They were kind of a bit Marmite about it. And I don't know. I get the impression in the US that the critics are a little bit Marmite about Lana Del Rey because she's kind of intense and a
Yeah.
woman, maybe, I don't know. There's also, I was looking for the video to play, and that video is the bit that I showed you is part of a 10-minute short film that she made around it.
It's incredible.
And the whole film is like just emotive, very deep 10-minute journey you go on, which is amazing. But anyway, I'll stop talking about it.
I love
You go.
it. I love that you love it. And I love that you mentioned the video, because I had to really think about why I love this song. I love Lana Del Rey. She's my favourite artist, hands down.
What is it you like about her generally?
I think it's everything that you said. She's emotive. I feel like she's a modern day Joni Mitchell, like really like that poetic.
Yes.
No bars held. Like she writes what she feels. She gets hate for it. She gets love for it. I mean, she's got a very kind of solid fan base, but you're right, in America and around the world, people are like, yeah, or that, she's a bit depressive or a bit emotive, or you have to be in the mood. And I just feel like she's so unapologetic, and I think that goes back to that kind of earlier Alanis Morissette feeling of being unapologetic and just being, fucking right what I want to. I also love the fact that she people really believe that her writing and her songs are her, and they're not. She's been very open about the fact that she created this alter ego to, that was her creativity to kind of live this life that's not necessarily hers through her songwriting.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so a lot of people so sometimes that creates that mystery of like, is this song really about her, or is this about the alter ego that she created?
Wow.
I will never forget seeing her for the first time on Jules Holland when she did Video Games, and I was like, oh, who is this? Like, because she was so different to anything at that time. She was kind of, the hair was done after this sort of like striking makeup. Again, looking kind of really moody. I absolutely adore her. I literally listen to her all the time. Her poetry is very great. It's great. And the monologue at the beginning of this song,
yes,
you'll only ever hear. I don't even think it's on Spotify. I think you'll only ever hear it on YouTube when you watch that 10 minutes.
Okay, I'll post I'll include the video in the playlist as well. It's brilliant.
It is so emotive. It stirs something in you.
Do you find her hard to listen to? Like, can you listen to it anytime, anywhere?
I mean, I think I'm probably desensitized because I've listened to her so much. No, I definitely have to be kind of in the mood. I love to listen to her when I'm driving. I find it like really like just kind of calming. And if I'm going on a long drive, I will listen to her. If I'm writing, I'll listen, and sometimes it's almost meditative, I think.
Okay.
But yeah, I mean, I wouldn't listen to her if I'm like, oh, I want some, intimate kitchen dancing or upbeat, because she, it's very it's very raw and real, but she says a lot through her songwriting, which I think resonates with me. A lot of the things that people want to say but are just too scared to say it. And she goes there. She goes there with womanhood. She goes there with sexuality. She goes there with, you know, the way that sexuality happens between different age groups. She goes there with politics, with her, you know, her upbringing.
Is it? Is it? I'm going to throw this in there. Is this you inspired by her to emulate her attitude to that, as in being unapologetic and saying what you think? Is that how your kind of Ginge Unhinged character feels a little bit like that as well?
Yeah, maybe. I think maybe the influences that I took younger, like with Alanis, I think, and you know, later on through, you know, your Joni Mitchell, or you know, even Gwen Stefani, you know, in the early days, kind of that rock feel of just say it and do it. Yeah, maybe I do. I don't think I'll sit there and go, oh, intentionally, but she definitely inspires me as a woman to, you know, to kind of be okay in yourself, and be okay if you're not okay, like be okay in not being okay.
Yes.
Because personally, she's gone through a lot. She gets a lot of stick.
Yeah.
And she just still remains incredibly true to her art. And I think that's what I really respect about her. When there's so many artists that kind of don't, I feel like she stays true to being a creative.
And I think that's what her fans recognise in her as well, isn't it? She's not bowing down to. I mean, I say bow down to popularity. She's got 18 million followers on YouTube, but yeah, I think it's that she's got a lot of integrity around and authenticity around what she does, and that's really important. I think,
But she's
especially
not
these
really,
days.
you know, she's not really on social media. She doesn't. She's actually really quite, you know, standoffish with the media world. I think maybe because she's got so much stick before. Maybe that's just a personal choice with her own creation of art, that she, you know, to get consumed into that world. But yeah, I have a lot of respect for her in the way that she is true to that art. And I've seen her live. I saw her live at Hyde Park. It took a long, many years to finally get to see her live. And that feeling when she walked out on that stage, I mean, it was in the last few years, so you know, I was not young. I cried. Like, she walked out, and it was like teenage me watching Take That or something come on stage. Like, it was that feeling of just, wow, I'm here. And to hear her voice live, the crowd was just incredible.
Yeah. It's amazing when you see. So I had a band on last week, Spires, who were from Glasgow, and they're young, you know, they're in early 20s, and they're two singers, and they went to see Wolf Alice, and they were saying, you know, they came on stage and they started crying, and they don't even know why, because it's such an emotive. And I did the same when my daughter made me buy tickets to see Ray at the Royal Albert Hall last year or 2 years ago. And I knew Ray. I didn't think I was a massive fan, and I was in tears. It was just amazing, just an amazing gig. And I think if you find an artist that can do that to you, then they've got to be a winner.
Yeah, so powerful. And I think that speaks a lot for the type of artist that you're seeing.
Yes.
Because you can feel that. You can
Yes.
feel it. You can feel that the entire stadium, or wherever you're standing. I was in Hyde Park, but you can feel that collectively, that you are in the presence of real talent and real mastery of what they do. And it's not kind of like thrown together on a
and also real like authenticity, I think, as well. You know, I think that's what comes across with those artists, that they're doing the art that they want to do, and they feel it's almost like they feel really honoured to be in front of a crowd who appreciates it.
Yeah.
And you get that with them, you know, you sort of go with them on that journey, I think.
Yeah. And obviously she sang that song, and I was just like, oh, you know, she's there singing it. But this song, I mean, I love a lot, you know, majority of her tracks, but this song for me, I think, is the one that just kind of, I guess it sums up that feeling for me of what it feels like to just go and have that freedom, and to kind of that escapism from the world, maybe when things do get a bit tough, and you know, and living vicariously through that video, I suppose.
Yeah.
You know, just being out on the open road but admitting who you are at the
Yes.
time
Yeah. And not being ashamed of it, just going, this is what
and
I
she
want.
says in the monologue, like, you know, the chameleon soul, and I resonate with that. And you know, it's
So have
I
you
have a tattoo of it, which is really sad.
oh, that's
But,
nice, very cool. I can't see it.
it's got Just Ride on it there, and I would
Nice.
never get any other lyrics, but I think it's like a tone that I try and live with. I live
Yes.
by is just whatever's happening in life, whatever we're facing, you know, just you got to ride with it and face it for who you are at the time.
Yeah.
Admit your failures, but take the adventure anyway.
Yeah, it's a journey. I've got this image now of you and your husband, like your husband buying a big motorbike and getting
No
in it,
way.
and you two just sort of riding off in the distance somewhere.
My husband is so opposite to anybody in that video. No, he'd be on like a little moped. No, he definitely would not be getting my time. We'd be in a Mustang, 100%.
Okay, nice.
We'd be in a Mustang together.
Nice. That was a truly beautiful song to end on. Thank you so much for coming on, Victoria. Just before we end, what's coming up for you in 2026?
What is coming up for me? So I have some comedy stuff happening. So challenged myself this year to break more into the comedy scene. So I've got an event happening in Hackney.
Wait, seriously, are you doing stand-up?
I'm doing so I did like a 20-minute stand-up gig last year that happened by accident, because you know most people start with like a 2-minute open mic, and somebody said like, oh, will you do stand-up? And I was like, yeah, okay. And they were like, it's 20 minutes, and I was like, fuck it, all right. And then I thought, shit, how am I gonna, I've never done this before. So I did like 20 minutes. So that is a shorter kind of 5 to 7 minute set in a mix of comedians for something for UCL London, which is happening in Hackney. And then I've challenged myself to do some stand-up, you know, proper open mics and start the scene properly. So that's definitely something.
Will you be announcing those on your socials? Because I'd love to come and see you.
Yeah, I will. Yeah, maybe. I mean, if they're not just like, you know, wing it and turn up bobbies. So yeah, but I will be with the Hackney one. I will be. That's, although it's happening in April, so I probably should get to that. Organisation not so good. So yeah, so that's like a challenge that I've set myself this year. There's, you know, sort of the usual talks within the corporate world and schools and things like that kind of keeps me ticking over. And I'm writing again, which is really good. So potentially a second book.
Wow.
We're seeing how that percolates really and progresses. But it's really nice to be writing again.
Well, I look forward to everything that's coming out from you, Victoria, and I will definitely come and see you at stand-up, because I think that'd be hilarious.
And there'll be comments about my kids, obviously.
And I'm going to bring my kids and see what they think. See if they think, can I talk to you about it like that? Then kids, they go, no, you bloody well can't. Thank you so much for coming on. It's been a real pleasure, and good luck with everything this year.
Thanks so much for having me. I've loved it.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and share it with a friend. And if you want to be on the show, fill out the form in our bio. See you next time.